My name is Jeff Boudro. If I haven't met you out there yet, I'm the new Executive Director for Power+Systems, and it's my great pleasure to be joined here in their kitchen with Barry and Karen Oshry. So just to both welcome you and tell you a little bit about what to expect, we're going to do about a half-an-hour interview. And at the end of that, we're going to ask people to put themselves on mute for now. But at the end of that, we would ask you, if you have any questions, to fire them at us live. And the format for the interview is going to go as follows. We're going to start off first with me asking Barry and Karen a few questions, just to kind of get some grounding in the great history of Power+Systems. And then they're going to kind of turn the interview 180 degrees and start interviewing me with some questions. And as a special treat to hopefully add some levity and some quickness, we're going to end up the interview with both James Lipton's 10 famous questions from his Inside the Actor Studio, directed by Barry and Karen toward me, and then a final question where we'll ask Barry and Karen what their plans are for their next great chapter. So that's our agenda. And at the end of about a half an hour, we'll turn it over to anybody that's out there in the audience that cares to ask a question of anybody here on the broadcast. So with that, we'll get started. And we thought an appropriate place to start would be for me to ask Karen, and particularly Barry, what has really driven your focus and your passion for so long for converting system blindness into system sight? I mean, that's the idea behind all this.
Okay, so one of the things is interesting when somebody sees something about you that you didn't know, but now it makes a lot of sense. And it wasn't that long ago we were talking, and Fritz Steele said something about me which really hit me. He said, for as long as he's known me, I have been driven by, it's not right yet. And it is, I have to get it right, and always working on how do I get it right. And anybody who's been following my work over time knows it's not that I have jumped to 100 different places, but working the same mind regularly and constantly trying to get it right. So that's what drives the focus. That's just kind of a personal thing. The passion is another thing, and I've spoken to many of you over the years, but it was getting up at the point where the Holocaust first became known to a young 13-year-old kid, and asking them the question, why, how on earth? The more I looked into the background of what Austria looked like at that time and various civilizations Germany looked like at that time, I said, it's not possible. How could such a terrible thing happen? And a lot of that just carried me over. That question, how can that happen, led me also to emotional stuff. Same patterns keep going on regularly. People keep falling into the same thing. How can that happen? And so, you know, that's the underlying passion has taken me in these at least two different directions, and which still drives me. So that, in a nutshell, is what's pushed 40-something years.
Years of amazing career, yeah. Karen, anything you would add on that for you personally, or should we move on to the next question?
Yeah, let's do that one.
All right, well, the second question that I thought would be interesting for the audience to hear is really around what's been your biggest source of professional fulfillment and joy, if I could use that word.
Well, for me, that's a really simple question to answer, and it has to do with the trainer network. It's both seeing people in certifications, people who committed time and money to come and get to learn this technology, and to see them working the material and growing with it and taking it into places that we never considered it possible. And so it's the spread of the work through others. It's the joy of hearing their experiences, learning what happens in their workshops that is so magnificent. And so that just is, those relationships have been very profound for me, and really have kept me committed.
Yeah, so it's really the people that have brought this work to life and the relationships that you've had that sounds like in summary. Great.
Yeah.
I have a hunch that where we are is folks out there have heard from us a lot, and would be open to other kinds of questions at the end, but what people are probably most interested in is you. And we were just thinking about it before. You were at a place in your career, kind of an open spot, and we said, you know, it's like all the gin joints in all the world. How come you ended up at this one?
Yeah.
And so really that's the question. What is it about what exists here, or your image of what has drawn you to
Power and Systems? Yeah. Well, it was very fortuitous in many ways that I ended up here. I feel so excited and humbled by the opportunity. But what drew me here started many, many years ago. I've known Barry and Karen and your work for almost 20 years now, I guess. And I first encountered it back at Putnam Investments earlier in my career. And then I think 8 years later, in the late 90s, when I was at Staples, I was at for a good chunk of my career, about 16 years. In fact, Jim Strauss, who's on the call, also encountered your work there through me. That I ran into the OW and ended up going to the Power Lab, and just in all of my years of experience, I had never run across anything that I had attended, never mind facilitated, that had the power and the great design of the OW. And so I never forgot that. I always enjoyed working on it, whether it was within a company or whether it was through the World Partnership. And so we stayed in touch more on a personal basis, even in some ways more than a professional one. So I took a year-long sabbatical. I traveled the world with my family. I can talk more about that a little bit later. But when I got back, it really reset the clock in terms of what's important to me. I had a chance to reflect. And I guess three things that really resonated for me. One was there's such a sense of purpose about this work, and that was really important to me. It was still important, but it was fourth or fifth on the list. Sense of really being able to make a difference was also important to me. And doing the work that at my core, I feel is what I was born to do in terms of facilitating and helping organizations transform and helping individuals really have the light bulb go off, or in this case, to have more system sight. So for me, it was a threefer in terms of the three things that I reflected on my world travels that were most important to me when I returned to the working world were all here in abundance at Power Systems. So it was just a great fit for me.
That world travel also was one of the things that attracted you to us as well. The whole image of somebody who said, I got a career, I got a place I can go now. But somehow really important is for me to have this experience with my wife and my young child, and just go off into the world and say, and trust the future, trust that somehow or another you'll be able to come back and make a life for yourself. And we valued that, that greatly in terms of stepping into this place.
Yeah, well, someone who's very close to me professionally and personally, that I've worked with for many years, gave me a sign when she realized what my family was doing on that trip, and it was jump and the safety net will appear. And that's hanging in my dining room right now. And mindset and the skills necessary to live with that have already proven to be very helpful in Power and Systems, because I think, the way I view what you've done is that you've put things out into the universe. And as Karen was just talking about, seen them grow far beyond what you could have envisioned. Mm-hmm. And there's something really powerful and really attractive about that. And so that was part of the attraction for me too. Yeah.
Seem to be doing a lot of this sort of your experience, background, and that, and a little bit more about the family.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I would comment a little bit for anybody who doesn't know me about my background. So just briefly, I worked mostly in corporate jobs. I worked largely in training and development or leadership development or OD for the majority of my career, both in financial services with an investment company in the bank, in retail with companies like Staples or Child World or Jordan Marsh or a lot of other department stores that no longer exist.
That's not a sign for the future.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then more recently in the insurance industry. So I've moved through a couple of different industries and really enjoyed the challenge and variety of that. But the common denominator has always been helping people to learn, whether it's an individual, whether it's a team or an organization, to really help organizations get more effective, both personally and as a group, and especially to be more customer focused as well. So that's been kind of a theme through my career. And again, that leads to a good fit for me here at Power Systems. But on the personal side, family is really important to me, and we did prioritize that as the number one priority for the recent sabbatical that we took. I have two older sons, 23 and 20, Dylan and Zane. And when I got remarried 9 years ago, my wife and I, Kelly, decided to have a child later in life for us. And so we have a 6-year-old daughter, Ryder. And knowing from the older boys how quickly time goes, and you turn around, they're driving a car, you turn around again, and they're in college. We decided as soon as Ryder was born, we would start saving and downsizing and rearranging our priorities financially and in general to take this long trip. And so for me, I've worked really hard in my career, but I also realized that I wanted to put family first. I do. And that was another reason that Power+Systems is a good fit too, because it gives me the flexibility I need to be there for my family. Whereas in other jobs before, the hours that I was working or how far I had to commute really took me away from my family more than I was comfortable with. So this is there's travel in this job, but not to the extent where I was traveling across 25 countries before. I won't probably do as much travel as I have in my past jobs, and I'll be able to be more present for my family and still do work that's really fulfilling and important.
This is great. And this has always been a family-first organization.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
So anyway, but here we go. So now the question I'm sure is on everyone's mind is the future. And you know, what are your plans? You know, just easing your way into things now. It's been what is it? How many months has it been?
Almost 6. Yeah, it'll be 6 next month.
Finding your way into Karen's head, what's buried in the what's been hidden away in small corners. And so what's the future look like?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to share that with a broader audience. I've certainly shared that with the leadership integration team, and I've shared that with other people that I've connected with. But of course, there's a great big 700+ person global training network out there. And that was one of the reasons that we wanted to do this little Zoom event, is to create greater visibility and the chance to create dialogues afterwards or follow up if people are interested. So I guess the first place I would start is I really sat down, and over these last 6 months, we've been doing a lot of knowledge transfer, so I can not fill your shoes because I don't think that's possible, but really, hopefully really extend the legacy of the great company and organization and the work that you've built over 4 decades. So the first place I started, in fact, I'm going to share the screen on this, are kind of the guiding principles, how I think about what our priorities are. And so I'm going to share the screen so everybody out there can see the guiding principles that I'm referring to here. That would be helpful if it was still up on the screen. It was a minute ago. Okay. No, that's not the right one. Excuse me for 1 second, people. Sorry about that, but I'll get PowerPoint right back up. For some reason, it did bounce out. There we go. So on the guiding principles, what you'll see is, I'm not going to get into all the bullet points here, but certainly you get a sense of the key concepts that will help me really set priorities and to clarify decisions when there's a fork in the road. So one of them is to extend the legacy. I think it's an incredibly rich legacy that I've inherited, and I really am wholeheartedly picking up the mission of spreading system sight throughout the world and doing that wherever possible and wherever feasible. Growing revenue is really important, not just for the financial health of the organization, but also to fund some of the initiatives, improvements that we want to bring to Power+Systems. Increasing relevancy, certainly the world or the development world has shifted a lot in the last 5 years, never mind the last 40. So making sure that our brand and our workshop and even our delivery methodologies are really appropriate to needs. So a lot more detail on that we can talk about. One of the biggest assets of this organization is the Power+Systems Global Training Network, our community. I'm really making sure that I expend a lot of effort on collaboratively supporting each other and specifically leveraging and rewarding the expertise that resides in the system. There's a lot of people without whom Power+Systems would not have the same reach, or wouldn't get nearly as far as it does, or evolve as much as it has without the great experts that are out there in the community. So making sure that we continue that.
Jeff?
Yes.
We can't see, you're not seeing the slides that you're referencing. It looks like we're frozen in the middle of your document between page 2 and 3.
Well, that's strange. Let me see if I can go back. Try it again. That. Can you see guiding principles now?
No, it says lit list and enrollment letter. It's a Word document.
All right. Let me try that again. Maybe it's not sharing the right document. Let me try that one more time. Thank you for speaking up.
I didn't want to be a vulnerable bottom. I'm speaking up.
Thank you. Thank you. How about now? Is guiding principle?
It's there now. It's right
Yes.
there.
Got it.
Yeah, we got it, Jeff.
All right. That was a test on partnership, and you all passed. So thank
Right.
you for that.
I want my shoes back.
So really quickly, extend the legacy, as you can see, growing revenue, increasing relevancy, strengthen the P&S community, and then also protecting the intellectual property of the organization, because that's really where we bring value to the world through all the work that Barry and Karen have done and all the people that have contributed to that over the last 40 years. So as I mentioned before, if there are times when we have to figure out what priorities are, these guiding principles will help with that. If there are decisions that need to be made that are tough, not between a right and a wrong answer, but between two right answers, it might help us with that, for example. And it really will help us make sure we're sticking clear to our values and our guiding principles. So that's the intent of this, and I want to be completely transparent about what are those guiding principles and what do they mean. So if you have questions about these, please jot it down, and at the end we can come back to this and talk about it in more detail if that's of interest. But for now, let me go to the next slide and talk a little bit. Now, hopefully everybody can see key initiatives. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
Oh, good.
Yes, you can see it.
Great.
Okay.
All right, good. So the key initiatives, there's them, and I would say I don't need to spend as much time on the first couple. I think they're fairly self-explanatory, but when I look at the year or year and a half ahead, one of them, obviously, that's we're in the middle of right now, is managing the founder transition. Literally, Barry and Karen are going to be retiring this weekend on April 1st. Will be the first day of their newfound freedom in the next chapter of their life that we'll learn about before. And so there's been a lot of activity over the past months to celebrate and honor them, appropriate, to do a knowledge transfer, as Barry referred to, and to also relocate the company offices and staff. So we are a fairly geographically distributed staff, a small staff, but the new offices are really going to be in Belmont, Mass., which is where Deb Garcia, our office manager, has a new office. I'll be working out of Medway, Mass. Karen Kennedy will continue to work out of Florida. And we also have our bookkeeper, Barbara, who will continue to work out of Wakefield and Belmont. So it's a relatively small team. And Michelle Thier, who's hasn't quite joined us yet, but happy to announce that we have someone who will be directly in charge of both marketing and global training network relations. So we're really going to put some money where our mouth is in terms of getting behind things like Worldwide Weekly Partnership and a trainer directory and a field book and trainer gatherings, both virtual and face-to-face. So I'll tell a little bit more of that in about 2 slides from now. But Michelle Thier, who I worked with for years at Staples, is joining us full-time as of April 16th. So you'll see a new face and a new email coming across perhaps when you interact with Power+Systems. The second key initiative that you can see on this page is really about revitalizing brand identity and marketing. So the biggest one on that is probably the website redesign. And we already have a couple of quotes and a couple of proposals that we're mulling over and really want to bring the website into more modern view in terms of both how does it generate business for us and for the Global Training Network, and how do we really use it in combination with the social media strategy to draw a lot more traffic to the website and not just have it as a great repository of information, but really as a way to engage potential clients. We've already created some new marketing videos that are available for people in the Global Training Network to use to market both the OW and When Cultures Meet. And we're going to be doing some work to update workshop materials in terms of the look and feel of the PowerPoints and the trainer manuals and participant guide materials, that sort of stuff. So those are some of the things that we're talking about in terms of those key initiatives. On the next page, we have a lot of initiatives that are around sales or sales infrastructure. And some of these might have a WIFM in it for people in the audience, because this is a great example of where we might be able to leverage and reward the expertise in the system. So we're already scheduling a whole bunch of showcases, and in particular, really getting behind when cultures meet to do a lot of showcases. New England Human Resources Association is one example. The partnership is another example, which supports people of color and the unique challenges they face in the workplace. And so we're doing showcases wherever possible. I'll be actually in Jamaica next month to speak twice at the Middle Managers Conference to try to get a lot of activity and a lot of conversation going out there, and a lot of exposure to Power and Systems workshops that we support the world with. Also looking at more strategic partnerships. It might be with other CCL-like companies. So we have a great partnership with the Center for Creative Leadership. And one WIFM for people out there, what's in it for me, the people out there in the Global Training Network might be if you have a connection with a global leadership development or management development provider who might really find value in the unique workshops, the experiential workshops that we provide. There could be a finder's fee in it for you if we successfully create a partnership with them. So we're looking to broaden our reach and touch more people with the system site. And we think that some amount of strategic partnerships is really appropriate to do so. We'll continue to do certifications in both the OW and When Cultures Meet. So there might be opportunities for those of you that are truly expert in those programs to get involved in certifications. We have a number of people who are kind of master certified to do that. And I know some of them are on the call right now. Like John Waters, for example, and Phil Cady come to mind. I saw their pictures earlier. I'm sure there are others out there as well. And there are always opportunities to do more organization workshops and When Cultures Meet. I see that one of my bullet disappeared. It says When Cultures Meet Power Lab on my slide. That's an error. Power Lab should be a separate bullet point, and the exciting news here is that we were really debating, could we bring the Power Lab back out of hiatus? We've done it since 2015. And for me, it's a great way to expose senior leaders to this work and hopefully get follow-up business deeper in the organization with an OW follow-up. And it looks like we're going to move forward with plans to do one in spring of 2019 and possibly one in the fall of 2019 as well. And one of those might be a women-only Power Lab, which would really be an extraordinary thing. So Marsha Clark, who is a longtime Power and Systems expert and a former board member, approached me actually at Barry and Karen's retirement party not too long ago. And she wants to have it not only attended by all women, but fully staffed by women as well. So really interesting development there.
So maybe that bullet is accurate, then it's When Cultures Meet. The
Power Lab, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe that was a
somebody knows more than us.
Yeah, right. One of the other things that I find very interesting, and probably wouldn't be a short-term objective, but maybe more of a long-term or mid-term objective, would be to really explore alternate delivery methodologies, particularly for the OW. As I talk to organizations and how they're going about developing their people, there's a lot of trends out there in terms of using a learning management system or having content libraries or doing a lot of remote training and a lot more either blended learning or virtual training, and even getting into things like enhanced virtual reality and enhanced QR codes as an example. So one of the things that I keep hearing is, do you offer this virtually? Do you offer the OW virtually? Is that possible? And I want to call out Phil Cady as well as some of the folks at Domain 7. They've done some great investigative work already. And I'm really interested in this as well. And I think in the coming years, maybe year and a half out or something like that, I could really see us putting some resources once we get some of the more fundamentals in great shape to really pursue something like this. I think this could be a game changer. And then another thing on the key initiatives around sales and infrastructure would be One of the challenges we have when we do a certification is just making sure we know where there are slots for people to observe OWs and when cultures meet, as well as just a chance for us to track royalties, quite frankly. So having a little bit greater visibility as to where workshops are being done would help us in a number of different fronts and allow us to partner with the Global Training Network. So those are some of the sales and sales infrastructure initiatives. The next one that I would talk about in terms of the future is around strengthening the Global Training Network. As I already mentioned, we've just hired Michelle Thier, who will work full-time on this, as well as a lot of the marketing activities and sales activities. We already have a proposal. I've been working with the group that was so critical to the Vancouver training gathering that was done last fall, as well as the LIT, the Leadership Integration Team. And we have developed a proposal. We're about to reach out to the larger training network to get their input and their ideas around what kind of trainer gatherings would really serve them well. The basic proposal that we have is that we do face-to-face trainer gatherings probably every other year and really get a lot of input on where and when to do that and what the content should be. But we would supplement that with either semi-annual or quarterly virtual trainer gatherings and really use that as an opportunity to do two things: not only stay connected and build that sense of community, but also to allow different experts to present their thoughts. And we've got a lot of great ideas from there, whether it's alternative designs or how do you sell an OW to an organization, or specific things that might help a brand new OW or WCM trainer. So there's a lot of interest out there in both finding new ways to connect and make it easier for both a broader and a more diverse audience of the Global Training Network to take part in trainer gatherings. Right now, it's usually a handful of people that 20 or 30 or maybe as many as 40 people who can make it to a trainer gathering when it's could be a good amount of time and money and distance to travel in order to get there. So it's quite a commitment right now, and we want to supplement that with other methodologies that will make it easier for more and different people to join. As I already mentioned, there's a lot of interest in creating either a field book or some kind of wiki online resource to share a lot of the best practices, and the LIT is extremely interested in that, and I'll talk about the LIT in a minute. There's a lot of need to support new trainers to make sure that they either have a coach or a co-facilitator to get them off the ground and out of the nest. So a lot of effort to be focused on that. The Worldwide Week of Partnership will continue. So the third week of October of this year, of 2018, we will have that. I think that's October 14th through the 20th. One thing that we've just launched, it's in pilot right now, is a trainer directory to make it easy for us to reach out to people. So if we get a request to do an OW in Kansas or in Dublin, both of which have happened recently, we know who has expertise and who has that geographic region that would make it easy for them to perhaps be involved in that. And we can really, again, share and reward expertise in the system through the trainer directory and connecting directly to people, and allowing you to connect with each other as well if you want to pick someone's brain or if you want to partner with them or any number of other reasons. And then the other piece of the Global Training Network is the LIT. I hope that most people know what the LIT is already. The Leadership Integration Team was a group of 10 experts that are globally distributed that Barry and Karen identified and asked to take on the role of being this leadership integration team to make sure that the great depth of expertise in Power+Systems continues and doesn't suffer too much from Barry and Karen retiring. Obviously, difficult, if not impossible, shoes to fill, but important that we keep some continuity. And in case you haven't seen it, the LIT team, I just wanted to give a shout out to them. I've listed on this slide here. You can see the 10 members, which are all across the US, Canada, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, UK. So we have a pretty nice global distribution of some really great experts in all things. Be so passionate about what they do and how to continue spreading system site throughout the world. So I think that gets into detail about what Barry was asking me, which is, what are the future plans for Power and Systems? That I want to be as transparent as I possibly could with people. I'm going to take us off the slide sharing so you can see us again. Not that that's a great benefit necessarily, but in any case, that gives you a good overview of what it is I'm planning to do with all of your help to continue the great work that Barry and Karen have been doing for the last 40 plus years.
So I just want to follow up and say just a few things. I've worked pretty closely with Jeff over the last 6 months. And so I want you to know, so he laid out what he's going to do, but let me tell you a few things about who he is. Somebody who's been working with him. And I tell you this so that you'll know when you start working with him what to expect. And it's pretty simple and clear. One is what you see with Jeff is what you get. There's no
hidden agendas.
Hidden agendas. He's truly transparent. He knows, he will tell you, and what he doesn't know, he'll tell you that too, that he doesn't know. And what really drives him in relationships is a win-win. So that's really his going in MO. That. And he's really approachable. So I hope you reach out to him and make deep, lasting relationships with Jeff, because he's a really special guy, and we're really thrilled over the moon that he's here.
Yes, we are.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't know that was part of the agenda, but thanks. I'm blushing a bit. So we're almost wrapping up here, and what we figured we'd do, as I mentioned before, was we would take a little bit of levity and a little bit of rapid fire questions and steal liberally from James Lipton's Inside the Actor's Studio. And if you haven't seen it, he interviews, he's a famous interviewer, and he's been on PBS, the Public Broadcasting Network, for a long time, interviews the best directors, actors, artists, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of every interview, which he does masterfully well, much better than we have, by the way, he asked these 10 questions, and I tried hard not to study in advance so I could just react to them.
All right, so
in the moment.
We're going to jump around. So,
okay, you can jump around.
Okay. Oh, this is that. Okay, turn into one creatively, spiritually, or emotionally.
Really, question for me, because I'm really exceedingly clear on that one. What really turns me on is seeing the light bulb go off for people, and that's, I first realized it, believe it or not, in comedy. I've done some stand-up comedy, not that I'm going to do any right now, but the essence of humor is, in hindsight, the punchline makes sense. You can see it going there. Right. And it's this aha, this unexpected connection. Same thing with magicians, by the way. And that's what's really driven me, I realized, in my career, being someone who's in professional development. Right. Really seeing someone get an insight or learn a new tool or figure out a new path for themselves, to me, is immensely satisfying.
Okay, great. So what is your favorite word? My
favorite word is actually daddy, because I have a 6-year-old who every morning she usually strings an adjective or an adverb along with it, like silly daddy or goofy daddy or something like that. But there's nothing better for me than that word.
I know. We spent some time with her. She's as cute as can be.
All right, talking about favorite words, what's your favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word. In all honesty, I really shouldn't say it, so I would have to say bleep, 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 bleep.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
That's a tough one. I would love to attempt. In fact, my wife and I were watching American Idol a little bit last night, and she posted on Facebook something about, I'm pretty sure I could do this. I just need a voice, And I love music. I've always loved music and art of many forms. I would love to attempt being a musician, but I know it would be a failure because I played drums when I was in high school and college, and I was never very good. And I think I already peaked a long time ago. So unless I suddenly tap into some wellspring that I haven't discovered yet, that's what I would like to attempt. I just don't think I'd be particularly successful.
And let's close it on, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well, I thought it was going to be St. Peter greeting me, so I'd be like, why are you here? Not St. Peter. But I guess what I would like to hear God say, whether it's a he or she, is double or nothing. If I get a second shot at living such a, we're so blessed to be on this planet and to have the experiences. And double or nothing for me sounds like a pretty good greeting.
Okay.
Good. Well, with that said, I want to bring it back to you for one final question, which is, I'm sure the people out there, I know you wanted to make it mostly about the future Power and Systems and what I had to say. So in your typical way, you were very self-effacing, but I'm sure there's people out there that would love to know, what are your hopes and aspirations for your next life chapter? I mean, you're a little overdue to retire. I mean, you could have retired a long time ago, I'm sure, but you've got us all wondering, like, what are you going to do next?
Well, as some of you know, I don't know the answer to that. And my life has been, I like to say 24/7 Power and Systems. And so I'm taking some time to really reflect and try out some other alternatives and just be in what I'm calling the white space for a while. And I don't know if Brenda Reynolds is on this
Yeah,
call.
she's right there.
Oh, yeah.
There she is.
But her book about this kind of subject is called TBD.
To be determined.
To be determined.
Ah.
Yeah.
How about you, Barry? Any thoughts on that question?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge, really. Some time ago, I really discovered that the greatest excitement I have, or the greatest sense of fulfillment I have, rests on three things, and see if I can remember them all. But it was learning, creating, and contributing. That is when I was doing things that was simultaneously, I was learning something, and I was contributing to what I was doing, and I was creating something. Those are high experiences for me, whether it was writing a book, or whether it was giving a terrific workshop, or whatever. And so the question is, moving out, do those drives go away, or do they stay?
Or they converted somehow, maybe.
Or do they converted in some other direction, or whatever? So I really don't know. I like Karen, I'm looking for, this is interesting what's happening in the sense that it's a total change. It's not just the end of Power and Systems for us. We're in the kitchen now. We're selling this house. We're leaving Boston. We're moving to another location. It's just an immense transformation, change in venue. And so part of it's going to be...
like Mary Lou Michael said, it's like pulling the Band-Aid off as opposed to...
edging.
Yeah. I think you're pulling the Band-Aid off as you're driving 60 miles an hour down the highway is what it's like to me.
So we always believe a lot in context. And so the question is, when getting into that new context, what will emerge there? And I'm open to what that is.
Oh, right.
Let's see. What questions does anybody have?
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to keep this organized, but we're going to ask you to, if you have any questions that you jotted down or occur to you now, you'd like to ask.
Raise your hand.
Well, we can't see everybody.
Oh.
So take yourself off mute if you have a question and you'd like to ask one. And if you don't have a question.
Brenda, this is Brenda. Hi, gang.
Hey there.
Maybe I should know this. Where are you guys moving to?
Sarasota, Florida.
Ah, great.
For half-time there and half-time on Cape Cod.
Nice. Wonderful. Ah, I'm getting sad, but happy for you.
You can always write.
Always visit.
Thanks, Brenda. Any other questions? Again, not expecting you to, but if you have any.
Yeah, it's great looking. Do you all see all the faces on here? It's just
They
so
did.
wonderful.
No, they should see.
You
Yeah.
don't see that. It's so wonderful seeing all
It's like
of
Hollywood Squares, but a lot classier.
you. Yeah, it's just terrific. It's just a great pleasure seeing you all.
Wow, some people I haven't seen in a long time, Julian Kaufman. Woo!
Oh,
Up there.
yeah.
See you all. Congratulations.
Thanks, Julia.
And then there's some people I've never seen, like Vipa.
Hi.
I was wondering, what's the most, what's the biggest fear that you currently have for this next phase? And what's the biggest inspiration?
The biggest fear?
Who are you asking?
Anybody?
You too.
Oh,
Whoever wants to answer between the two of you.
my biggest inspiration is spending my life with Barry. And no question. And my biggest fear is that I won't find my way.
As an inspiration, I'll go with Karen's. But, you know, it's hard to know.
Okay, great. That's good enough then. Yeah, apologies for...
Thank you. Just for the honesty in answering
thanks for
that.
staying on. Glad
It's
we could
inspiring
connect.
that you both have each other. And it's
So,
also good to know that
so Rick,
any
you're
new
interested in
endeavor
coaching,
brings this
this
fear of
coaching
not knowing and of never
program?
finding our path. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, if there are any other questions, we're happy to answer them, but at the same time, we don't need to necessarily keep you on here any longer if you've gotten what you've needed, hopefully, from this interview. I want to thank everybody for chiming in, and I want to thank Barry and Karen for both being willing to do it. And I guess I'll ask one last time, are there any other questions? I don't want to cut anybody off, but otherwise, in 30 seconds, we'll be ending the meeting unless there's any other questions.
One thing, Jeff, this is David.
Hi, David. And then Laurie.
Yeah, can you send us the slides,
The
please?
slides. You'd like the slides? Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if Barry could add some little doodads and pictures, that would be a really nice parting gift.
Some random drawings of things dispersing and integrating.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, anybody that would like the slides, just please send me an email, jeff@powerandsystems.com, and I will gladly send you a copy. Anybody that would like them.
So Laurie had a question too.
Laurie, you.
Yeah, I didn't really have a question. I just, this is very touching, and I just want to say the trainers conference was also very touching. And I think it's important to transition and have us be part of the transition because you're going to be missed.
Mm.
And so helping, I mean, you're transitioning, but we're also transitioning too. So
Right.
thank you for the opportunity to get used to the transition with you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. You've pointed out the obvious, which is nobody does something by themselves. It's a relationship. And when we change one side, we change the other. And so I get what you're saying, that it's your transition as well as ours. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great.
So I will forever be thinking of that beautiful, that restaurant and that beautiful scenery, you know, at dusk.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's kind of going to be my thinking of you and the transition.
That's a great setting to. Very nice. Any other questions, comments, bad jokes that you would like to offer up?
Thank you for everything. And does the what turn to what?
Oh. That's a wonderful joke, but I don't know. Oh gosh.
Great.
The things you remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, great.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Farewell from here in Boston, and let's stay in touch. Whether you want the slides or not, please drop me a line when you're so inclined, and look forward to partnering with as many of you as possible.
And we look forward to your transition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you
Lots of
all.
luck.
Thank you.
Bye.